Episode 93 of the podcast. In the first part, we're going to talk about the crossover groomer, making the switch from get it done even though the dog has a behavior problem to work on the behavior problem to get it done. It's a big difference. In the second part, we'll be talking about some limiting beliefs that might be holding you back. And I apologize already that my voice is kind of going, and apparently there's some construction going on outside that we'll see if I can edit that out. You're listening to the Creating Great Grooming Dogs podcast. I'm Chrissy Newmeyer-Smith. I'm a certified professional groomer, a certified behavior consultant for canines, a certified professional dog trainer, and the owner of Happy Critters in Nashua, New Hampshire. And this, my friends and colleagues, is the podcast where grooming and training meet. This week is all about the crossover groomer. In the dog training world, there's a term called crossover trainer. And what that is many of us started off with some really heavy-handed punishment-based techniques. And then at some point, we learned about newer techniques and totally changed. And so that's where a lot of the people who use positive reinforcement have become like crossover trainers. So when I say I'm a crossover trainer, it means that I started off with a lot of choke chains and prong collars and alpha rolls and dominance, switched over to rewards, creating behaviors differently. And so it's a mindset shift. And now there's like an entire generation of trainers who were totally indoctrinated into this reward-based training. But I want you to think, for our industry in the grooming industry, trainers, I want you to parallel that with what we're trying to do in the grooming industry, is to parallel that and help groomers understand, like, hey, there's some newer ways we can do things. It doesn't mean that you have to let go of everything you've done before. In fact, I never truly decided that I was never going to put a choke collar on a dog again or a prong collar on a dog again. I just never did. Let me explain that, because it's really kind of interesting. I just found newer ways to do things and to get results and just stuck with them. So it was never like I decided that was cruel. If you had told me what I was doing was cruel, I never would have switched. I know myself, I'm stubborn. It would have taken a long time and a whole lot of people showing me different ways of doing things before I said, maybe there's something to this. Because being judged like that is just no fun. So the crossover groomer, I would like groomers to cross over into more of a behavioral point of view. Instead of thinking about the way that we need to get the job done over a behavior problem, through a behavior problem, we need to think about the behavior problem and solve it, and that's doable. Oh, it's so doable, So I want you to think about the crossover groomer. Now, here is one of the things that I think we kind of think about when we're grooming, is that the owners are paying us for grooming. And that is true, but are they preparing their dog? Now, think about this. I know this isn't a popular point of view, but take a deep breath. A dog is a luxury. They're expensive. They are not easy, and they come with responsibilities. And one of those responsibilities is to train your dog. I know. Relax. I hear you right now. You're thinking, I can't expect all of my owners to train their dogs. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. But we need to have a heart. We need to help them understand what is expected of them. Okay? It's because they're the ones who have the problem. We have a solution, and we sell our solutions. So I'm not talking about do these nice things and all happy ducky land and doggies are all, fluffy puppy babies. And I'm talking about doing better business. This is just better business. These owners have a problem. Their dog isn't really easy to groom. It's going to cost them a whole lot of money over time. They're not going to get pretty trims. It's probably going to cost them at the vet's office. It's going to make life harder when they have to put in an ear medication or an eye ointment or change a bandage. God forbid they get stuck out in the woods needing to do something on their own, right? They have a problem. We need to point it out, and we need to have a solution set. And that might be send them to a trainer. That's okay. But to let them know, ooh, yeah, this needs to get fixed. this is part of a problem that you and your dog are having, and I'd like to help you with it. And I think that we often are like, we just got to get it done. We just got to get it done. And that's the older mindset. And like I said, I've been there. Oh my God, I've been there. For a long, long time, we really thought that dogs just were not going to be able to learn to be better for grooming if they didn't learn it as a puppy. And that is not true. In my opinion, all right, and this one's totally opinion. In my opinion, a healthy dog can be taught to be a safe dog. And that's usually a pretty good guideline. A healthy dog can be taught to be a safe dog. The dogs that are going to have problems forever often have some sort of a health problem too. Not all brains were formed perfectly. We understand that in people, but sometimes we forget that in our dogs. Not all brains are formed perfectly. Not all bodies are formed perfectly. So a dog that's going to have a problem for life might have some sort of a true behavioral problem issue that is physical and not necessarily a training issue. But we still need to do training for those. We still need to help them be the safest dog they can be. But most dogs are pretty healthy, right? Most dogs can behaviorally change for us. So cross over into the light, cross over into the modern way of thinking about, hey, listen, this dog is having an issue with this, and we're going to fix it. And we're going to fix it. It's just part of the service, because I'm not here to wrestle your dog and to make life hard. First of all, so for many of us who are crossover groomers who've already crossed over, part of what created that crossover is that you start realizing the damage it's doing to your body year after year after year with struggling with dogs. Grooming is hard enough. Struggling with dogs is even harder. So if we start thinking about the toll it starts taking on your body, that's when a lot of groomers start switching over. Like, what can I do to help these dogs just be better so I can do cute trims and not blow my shoulder out the fourth time in a week? You know, how can I teach these dogs to be better and have just no tolerance for the owners who refuse to? So I have a bunch of little points that I think are going to help the crossover groomer. Or the potential crossover groomer. For those of you who are just on the edge, and you're like, this all sounds really nice, Chrissy, and lovey-dovey, groovy, but I'm not going to be able to do this where I work. Like I said, the owners are the ones who have the problem. And if they want the pretty trim, right, then they need a dog who is prepared for it. And the way to get a pretty trim at the good dog and good condition price is to bring in a dog who's well-behaved and their coat's in good condition. Now, unfortunately, we're quoting our prices based on well-behaved dogs who are well-maintained, right? That's usually about what our prices are based on. And even if we give a range, we're like, or it might be a little bit more depending, on your dog's size. Like, many of us are aware that we can't just quote like X amount of dollars for a Bichon. Ta-da! That's what it is, right? We're not selling that type of a product. We're selling a service. But a lot of our prices are based on well-behaved dogs who have well-maintained coats. And maybe we should be saying that. Just adding those words to reminding people, like, wait, what? Because a lot of people honestly believe, holy cow, that you bring your dog in when he's matted. That's what grooming is for. Right? That, well, no, of course he won't let us do his nails. He doesn't let us touch his feet. That's why we're bringing him to you. Like, they look at us like we're crazy if we start mentioning behavior stuff. So some of this is about us talking to our owners and just telling people that, hey, prices are based on the well-behaved dogs with coats that are in good shape, because that's most of our clientele. That's literally what we do. We do trims on dogs who are well-behaved, whose coats are in good shape. Anything beyond that is extra, right? And extra work is extra cost. So when we talk about good behavior, we can also talk to them about that means you won't need extra work and extra cost for your dog's entire life. We're talking about 15 years, generally as a guideline. I give everyone it's 15 years. 15 years worth of, is this dog going to fight for it? So even if we're not thinking about the dog's behavior problem as a fear thing, which it truly is. I mean, it's a fear, discomfort. They're worried, they're stressed, right? Even if we're not even worried about what they're going through, if that's too wishy-washy for you, which, all right, I can understand sometimes that's too wishy-washy for people. I get that. This is business. I don't need to spend time doing trims on dogs that owners are not going to try to help make that dog good. Trainers don't take on dogs that the owners aren't going to work with. Why would groomers? Vets are turning away dogs now. Vets, that's awesome. Like, you are going to need to train this dog. And they just have your BS meter, and you hit that point where, like, sorry, I don't think you should be bringing him back here. I think you're going to need to find somebody else. So before we get somebody to the point where I think you're going to need to find somebody else, I want us all to be telling them our prices are based on well-behaved dogs who are well-maintained. Let them ask the question, well, how do I do that? How do I get the well-maintained, well-behaved dog price? Like, how do I do that? Great question. And that's where we educate. Educate, educate, educate. If you're enjoying this podcast, please remember to subscribe so that you don't miss any episodes, and tell all of your friends. Let's talk about some of the limiting beliefs that we sometimes have that keep us from working on behavior. So one of those, owners won't do it. Okay, when we all start collectively as an industry setting a standard and saying this is how we do business, right? They'll start to do it. Right? I want you to think about that. They'll start to do it. They have a training issue. Owners know that they need to train their dog. Part of owning a dog is that they have to take care of their dog, and that involves veterinary visits, it involves grooming, whether by a professional groomer or by themselves, it involves bodily care. They know that they need to train their dog. Your dog is not allowed to hurt people, and we're people. And that includes things like biting and scratching and jumping and other ways to injure us. Owners know that. And when we pointed out to them that that includes the grooming space, that includes at your vet, and that there are things to work on, right? When we address that as a safety policy and talk to them about working toward goals of a dog who is going to be good and well-behaved and safe to groom, right? That's when they start to understand. They're like, oh. And the ones who don't, they're abusing you. Who cares if you lose them, right? Who cares if they won't do it? Let them go find a groomer who says, that's okay, I'll do it. Because you know what? In 20 years, when that groomer's hand can't do it anymore, or maybe 30, I don't know. But, down the road, when that groomer's like, I just can't do that anymore, it'll eventually come back to, gosh, they even told us we should be teaching them to be good for this. So here's another one, another limiting belief. It's going to take too long. Yeah, I hear that. I hear what you're thinking. You're thinking what I do is faster. But you think it's faster because it's what you've always done. Like if you're holding on to that leg and you're like, I just need to hold on to this leg and I need to pull it back and you just knock it off. You stop, and I'm holding your leg and I'm going to get this done. Good God, I can't imagine a way that would be faster than that, right? But there is. Because you're going to go through that with that leg every single time you see that dog for that dog's life. No learning of being good has been done there. That's a terrible sentence. But no, they have not learned how to be comfortable with that, how to cooperate, how to be appropriate. They've just learned you won during that wrestle, but that wrestle still happened. And depending on how hard they were wrestling when you finished, they might have actually learned to wrestle harder. So I want you to be thinking about that it's going to take too long. It's not. We're talking about a 15-year lifespan. So if you're doing it right and you're making measurable progress with each and every groom, in just a few sessions, that groomer will be faster and safer. And safer, right? Remember, behavior problems are when dogs get hurt, people get hurt, equipment gets broken. And when dogs get hurt, that's when owners get upset, owners start trashing your business, businesses get ruined. Really, in this day and age, too, it goes crazy. So be thinking about that. Behavior problems are not good for your business. They're not good for business. Even if we're not worried about that dog's brain and what they're going through, from a purely add up the numbers accounting point of view, they're bad for business. So if it's going to take longer for a few groomings before you start really making some progress, that's different than it's going to take too long. I think sometimes people think that it's going to take that long forever. And it doesn't. It doesn't. This is what I want for you. I want you to know how to help dogs be better so that you can groom faster. So you can do pretty trims on dogs who are being totally appropriate. Just think about that. Think about the clientele that is prepared their dog for you. The clientele that has a dog that they've worked with really well, and the only things that that dog might react to are things that are very unique to the grooming setting. How cool would that be? Think about how fast your day would go if every single dog was really predictable, right? You know exactly how long that trim's going to take because it really just is based on how fast you do a trim. How cool is that? Right? So don't think that it's going to take too long. Here's another limiting view. I was taught this way. Oh, I get it. Man, it is so hard to change something. So instead of thinking about changing it, if you're in this crossover section right now and you're thinking, I mean, I'm kind of listening to the podcast, I'm kind of following, I think maybe this is kind of cool. If you're thinking about it, don't let I was taught this way limit you, right? Just think about adding new stuff to what you were taught. And that's what I did when I switched over, when I crossed over from more punishment-based techniques to more reward-based techniques with training. I just started adding to my toolbox, and then I found out that a lot of my old tools were collecting dust. And I also found out what tools can't be used together. But that's okay, right? You can't use a screwdriver on a bolt, right? So if we're talking about tools not going together, right? Those two things just don't work together. So you're going to have to pick one or the other. But add to what you know. So don't think about it as I was taught this way, and I was really just taught this way, and this is habit for me. Habits feel like they're fast because you're on autopilot. If you actually set a timer and go through and do what you usually do, and then on a different dog, or maybe that dog in another grooming, and set a timer and try it a new way, you might find that it's just as fast or faster with different results, and we are results driven. I want you to make measurable progress with each grooming. Measurable progress. This isn't about how I feel about it. This is about dog actually let me put the clippers behind his ear. By the end of the grooming, I was able to easily put my clippers behind his ear and work on that spot. That the mat was already gone, but I circled back to it a couple times and was easily able to do it. That's measurable progress. Not opinions, progress. And that's measurable, observable. So here is another one. I was taught this way by so-and-so, and they said, all right, I get it. We all have this kind of but I was taught by someone I really thought was an authority who was like the go-to person, and I get it. I'm like, oh my God, but I read this in this book by so-and-so, and I went to one of their lectures, and wow, that guy was really awesome. And then I had to think, when I was doing training stuff, and then I had to think, yeah, but that was back in 93. I did learn it from so-and-so, but I wonder what he's teaching now, because that was back in 93. So sometimes we have to kind of take a look and say, all right, is what I'm looking at and clinging to still up to date? And also, is it helping me in my day-to-day work? Is it serving me well? Or am I listening to this podcast because it's something that I still have dogs struggling with? Do I need more tools in my toolbox? And is it working toward the 3 C's? Is what that so-and-so taught you, is that working toward a dog who's calm, comfortable, and cooperative? Or is that working toward putting trims on dogs despite their behavior? It's a big difference. And that's the crossover. It's a big difference. All right, here's another one. It won't make a difference. That's another limiting belief. It's not going to make a difference. Oh my God, it's just going to waste my time. It's not going to make a difference. Yeah, it will. And I know that's a really bold statement, but it's true. It will. Calm them down, help them be comfortable with it, work on pieces of whatever it is they're nervous about, identify what they're nervous about, maybe give them some encouragement while they're being good. Pretty much, yeah, that's going to help. It will make a difference. I mean, it's not magic. We're not waving a magic wand and ta-da! Yeah, bring them to a show. But it's going to help. It's going to make a difference. Now, let's see. I wrote a couple more of them down. Some dogs are just hard to groom. You know what, Chrissy? You say this like all dogs can be helped and some dogs are just hard to groom. And that is true. Some dogs are just hard to groom. There are many dogs that have a pretty serious issue. And you know what? There are many dogs that probably shouldn't be casually dropped off at a grooming shop. Their owners should know that. Their owners should be working on that. Their owners should have really a good grasp of this is dangerous. This dog is not good. This dog is really at a high risk of getting nicked with scissors or getting nicked with a clipper blade. And yes, trainers, if you didn't realize, yep, clipper blades will also nick a dog. Pretty much anything we use on a dog can injure a dog. And you might think slicker brushes wouldn't, but a dog that bites a slicker brush and rips open their gums or their tongue, yep, now we're doing first aid on a dog who eats brushes. Fabulous, right? So be thinking about that. Some dogs are a big behavioral problem, all right? And that's where those owners should also be working with someone who specializes in that, right? We shouldn't necessarily, as groomers, be getting our behavior advice from other groomers. I know, but Chrissy, you're a groomer. I know, I am. But I also study behavior. I'm a behavior consultant. I'm a trainer. I went through those certifications. In the grooming world, that's sort of like master groomer level certification, right? I went through those because I find it fascinating. And I find that it's stuff that groomers aren't being taught. So I want to bring it to you. And I honestly feel the same way when trainers are teaching other trainers how to do like nail trims or trimming stuff. Like, I don't want trainers learning about grooming stuff from other trainers. You know, that other trainer might be also a groomer. That's great. That's different. Those of us who are groomers and trainers, we bring something different to the table. But when trainers start teaching each other about like, oh, this is how you file his nails, or like, this is how you brush. I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. First, let's find out if trainer number 1 knew how to brush, because otherwise it's just a game of telephone, and the information in the beginning was kind of off. So groomers, we need to think about who we're getting our information from, because the difference between this is the way I like to do it, and this is how we can do it, this is a number of ways we can do it, this is the science behind it, and this is how to measure your progress. Those things are very, very different. So yeah, there are some dogs that are just hard to groom. Sorry, I got a little off on a tangent there. There are some dogs that are just hard to groom, and that's true. And those dogs should be working with someone who is working on their behavior. Right? Those are the dogs that we might send to the vet so that they can be medicated during a grooming. Or if you're comfortable working with dogs who are medicated during a grooming, those are the kind of ones that you might need that. However, doing it the old way and not addressing behavior, yeah, that's not going to help either. That is not going to help. And it's just going to get you hurt. And we're setting our owners up to believe that that's okay. What? Yeah, of course he hates grooming. Don't all dogs hate grooming? No, actually they don't. You know, well, of course he hates it. Those loud, loud noises and their sensitive, sensitive puppy ears. Like, nope, that's not why most dogs hate it. Most dogs are just totally unprepared. There's so much going on and they're unprepared. And we need to change that. There is no reason why dogs shouldn't be prepared for a grooming experience. They should be working on those things. And actually, if you want to look up really, really quick, the AKC Canine Good Citizen Test is 10 steps that all pretty much apply to things like going to a groomer and going to a vet. It's a great start. And it's pretty common, and most people have heard of it. So even if you just throw it in there, like, well, you could work on these at first. But one last limiting belief. People will go to another groomer. They're not going to go for it. They're going to go to another groomer. But I'm going to ask you this. Who are they going to go to? Right? Think about this. Because if we all stick with this idea that, yeah, we have no BS about behavior problems. We're just not going to allow that anymore. We're either working on it or you're finding somebody else. If we all do that, they have nowhere to go. Except for Crazy Hal's chop 'em and slash 'em, right? They have nowhere to go. Think about it as the way we do when we do like a rabies protocol, right? People all over the place, like, how do I get my dog done? I mean, I guess I need to get rabies vaccine then for my dog to be at a groomer. I guess I need to have a veterinarian. My dog needs to see a vet every year or two for me to be able to get my dog groomed. Yes. Yes, they do. And we don't worry about that. We don't say, oh, but they'll find another groomer. Let me groom your potentially rabid dog. Nope. We're fine with that. We're like, he needs his rabies vaccine. Go ahead, get it done. And we need to have the same kind of point of view. So it's time to cross over, guys. It's time to cross over. We have some really exciting stuff that we can teach. And it's going to be great. And it's going to be worthwhile for you. And it is good business. If you'd like more information, you can find me at Chrissy@happycritters.net, happycrittersdogtraining.com, or you can join the Facebook group, Creating Great Grooming Dogs podcast, or the Facebook page, Creating Great Grooming Dogs. I really look forward to hearing from you.